Hey babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I am the host of the Be Real Babe show, and today, you guys, we are keeping up with Canada, and if you believe it, it's fucking cold. I hope you guys like my Christmas attire. I am Buddy the Elf. For those that don't know me, I absolutely love Christmas, but I also understand that some people absolutely hate it, and that is totally valid. I have had my ins and outs with it, but as an adult and going into my 40s, I still feel like a child sometimes, and that's okay. We're allowed to do what we want, okay, you guys? So I hope you like my outfit. I hope you're enjoying the end of the year. Hope you're not freezing to fucking death. If you are, I think North America is just cold all in general. But when we were down in Hawaii, it was sure nice and warm. So definitely not all of us are freezing our asses off right now. But if you are in Canada, you're freezing your ass off. And if you're in Canada, you also know that there's a bunch of fucking pedophiles around here. What is going on? I need a break from the show, you guys. And I always look at news and I always go to look at stuff, and it's always just predominantly disgusting people. So today I have three stories, two of which involve two very disgusting situations. One that has justice, one I don't think does. Both we need to be talking about. And the third one is an actual win, you guys. I have a win for us federally for a very tragic situation that happened here in Kelowna, but there's a very big win. And it just goes to show what happens when people work really hard to use their voices. And I'm excited to share this story despite how it all started. So if you're interested in listening to those three stories, stick around and we'll jump right in. All right, guys, as I mentioned, three stories today. Two are disgusting. Third one, it definitely has its route in disgusting and tragic, but sometimes we have to look at the wins in the situations too. So I'm excited to share a win at the end of this. But the first two stories are again just the never ending abuse of children blows my mind. And it's, I think when I was growing up and a lot of, I don't know, maybe the last several decades of my life, maybe not the last 5 years, I really didn't think these things happen this much in Canada until I started doing this show and learning that this does happen in our backyard. Our children are, I'm not trying to be like doom and gloom, but I definitely think parents need to be aware of this like 100%. And having open communication with their children are so important. So let's jump into the first story. So, former grade 8 teacher who sent nude images to students sentenced to 4 years. A former grade 8 teacher in Ontario who pleaded guilty to sex crimes after persuading students to exchange explicit selfies with her has been sentenced to 4 years in prison. Kellyanne Jennings, 41, stood in Kawartha Lakes, Ontario courtroom Thursday as a judge delivered the sentence. The impact of having a child perform sexual acts on camera for the gratification of an adult is severe, Ontario Court Justice Nathan Baker said. Severe and disgusting. The fuck is wrong? Don't get banned. Don't get banned. Jennings pleaded guilty earlier this month to 6 charges involving 3 boys, including child luring, invitation to sexual touching, and making child sexual abuse and exploitation material referred to as child pornography in the criminal code until recently. I just this, and you'll hear from one of the victims' moms, but the reason why I want to talk about this is because it doesn't get talked about enough. And I think this happens a lot. And oftentimes, I think young boys and men are told not to talk about this. And as kids, they don't talk about it until like big situations like this happen and people get caught. But I think this happens more often than not. And that's why I want this to be talked about, because I think there's a lot of adults going around, a lot of adult men that have had these things happen to them and they never get to speak out. And some people get retribution, some don't. I don't know if that really happens in this situation, but I just think we can at least talk about it and become aware of it. Anyways, additional charges including sexual assault and sexual interference involving a fourth complainant were stayed at the Crown's request. After Baker read his decision, two officers took Jennings into custody and led her out of the courtroom. Her name will be added to the National Sex Offender Registry, and she is ordered to provide a DNA sample. And she should never, ever get a job where children are again. Like, that should just be immediate. Immediate without question. There's no dice. Nowhere should you. Public, in an office, away with adults, something. Never around kids again. The mother of one of the victims recently told the court, "People don't want to believe women can do this." See, exactly. And it does, and I'm not shitting on women. I'm just saying so many people say that men are predators, and they are, but there are also women that are predators too, and we just need to call out the bad people, right? Um, but this wasn't a mistake. She wrote in a victim's impact statement, this was abuse. It was calculated, it was predatory, it was criminal. When the allegations against Jennings first surfaced last year, she was placed on unpaid leave from her job at Port Hope, Ontario, about 100 kilometers east of Toronto. Peterborough, Victoria, Numberland, and Clarington Catholic District School said it formally terminated Ms. Jennings' employment earlier this month. I want to acknowledge the profound and ongoing impact this case has on our school communities. The board's director of education, Stephen O'Sullivan, said in a statement emailed to CBC News. My hope is that today's outcome provides a measure of closure for those affected. Yeah, like if she's guilty, 100%. Again, kind of go to the courts where I guess, like, well, I'm not the court, so I don't have to worry about it. And I'm not seeing this. I'm just saying based off the story. Um, have to prove that she's guilty. But once that is established, then there should be no more of that for sure. I understand suspending until just to make sure, unless there's like absolutely so much evidence out in the public. So I get waiting to due process, but I just think absolutely there should be no contact further with children in your job at all, in any sort of like power dynamic position. Publication ban covers the names of the 3 teenage victims. The court order also prevents other information from being shared that could identify the students, such as the name of the publicly funded school where Jennings taught. But didn't it just say the school? Maybe it's just saying the board. And they narrowed down the city and then the board, but anyways, I don't know enough, so I don't personally can't say much more, but I feel like people might be able to figure that out. Anyway, according to agreed statements of fact filed in court, Jennings began sending suggestive pictures and videos to the 3 former students over Snapchat in summer of 2023 when the boys were 14 and 15 years old. The image grew increasingly explicit, with Jennings sharing a picture of herself in the bathtub and fully nude images, and ultimately a video of herself masturbating. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to bleep that. Like I don't know if this woman. Okay, she's 41. Yeah, I'm 39. My youngest brother's like 23. I don't know what that. Those ages, 21, 23. Prison. Prison, prison, don't let this person out. She demanded the victims send nude images of themselves, telling one boy, just do it. 2 victims complied. What are you doing with those? Jennings blamed heavy drinking, telling at least one boy that she was tipsy after an instance of marital infidelity involving her husband. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm sorry that you're going through that. I really am. That doesn't excuse any of that. The drinking and the infidelity, not an excuse. I appreciate infidelity in her relationship was causing her to drink, the judge said, but in no way can this rationalize her actions. It cannot, especially when that is your job as well. Like, that's absolutely not. Jennings was first charged in August 2024 after police said a male student told his mother about inappropriate physical contact with a teacher on a class trip. Port Hope police later said 3 more complainants came forward, which led to further charges. Dr. Crystal L. Kelly, a clinical and forensic psychologist who met with Jennings, found the former teacher presented a low-moderate risk of sexual offending in the future. Kelly recommended therapy and said Jennings could pose a low risk if she were to pursue further treatment. Obviously not. In a victim impact statement, one victim's mother wrote that her son does not want to be in school and we struggle to keep his attention on his studies. This breaks my heart as the predator is sitting in the courtroom stole that trust away. The emotional scars of this abuse will follow my son for the rest of his life. And fucking absolutely. Oh my god. Why is it always why is it always the teachers? I'm not trying to be that way, and I'm not saying all of them, but like, I don't know, and I'm not saying I would know, but like, is there a way to figure out better ways of vetting these individuals? I don't know, like check their fucking hard drive or something, like check their Google Drive. Like, I know that maybe seems like a personal, like a stretch into their personal private life, but at the same time, like, how the fuck do you protect kids from these weirdos? How? That's disgusting. You're fucking disgusting. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't be this way. Sorry, can we all agree on that? I'm never talking about cruise ships again. That'll be for the next Internet Insanity, but you guys are crazy about cruise ships, and I'm not talking about them anymore. Anyways, this is Canada's episode. So let's go to the next one. Another disgusting situation. Colombian man jailed for sexually assaulting child in Kelowna. So this was published December 6th. It's on Castanet. Our MLA shared this story, and just this is graphic, very graphic. But again, we need to know that these things are happening and these children are going through this stuff. So the least we can do is read their stories and hear about it. Even though it's foul and disgusting, the best thing we could do is spread awareness about this stuff happening. So let's carry on. A Colombian man who sexually assaulted a 7-year-old child in Kelowna was handed a 4.5-year jail sentence on Friday. 4.5-year jail sentence on Friday. Following a trial this past June, 45-year-old Franklin Cadelo Mosquera was convicted of sexually assaulting the child in November of 2022. While Candelo Mosquera denied the allegations, Justice Richard Houston ruled that he touched the victim's, you know what I'm saying, woman part, with his hand and attempted to, I can't say that, I don't think, on here, the child's, with his, you know. DNA evidence swab from Candelo's Mosquera's, shortly after the incident occurred matched the child's DNA with high degree of certainty. The victim testified at the trial that she asked Candelo Mosquera, "Why are you doing this?" during the assault, and he responded, "Because you are pretty." In her heartbreaking testimony, the victim used a stuffed animal to show the court what Candelo Mosquera did to her. He used enough force to leave marks on the child, which were identified by a doctor shortly after the assault. Any information that could identify the victim is protected under a publication ban, so Castanet won't be publishing any contextual information about the assault. I don't think we need to. I think that's good that that stuff's kept private for these children to be able to decide if they want to speak out as they grow up. And I really appreciate all the changes in the laws for these kind of things that are happening lately for victims. It's a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Both the Crown prosecutor Kevin Short and defense counsel Melissa Lowe agreed a 4.5-year jail sentence was appropriate, and Justin Houston agreed. With enhanced credit for time spent in pre-sentence custody, he has about 3 years and 9 months left to serve. This was a shocking and brutal violation of this child's integrity and trust. Short said, "For those of us who have been doing this for quite a while, listening to this child in this case tell her story of what happened to her was crushing. A reality no child should ever know." Exactly. And we should be putting these people in prison forever. Okay, maybe not forever, but forever. Prior to Justice Houston delivering his sentence, the victim's mother addressed the court speaking about the impact the sexual assault had on her daughter. She should have been learning, laughing, and discovering the world with innocence. Instead, she's forced into a reality no child should ever know, said the mother. She blames herself at first. She asked me over and over if she had done something wrong to make this happen. As a mother, hearing those words come from a child so young is heartbreaking. And on top of this, imagine, and I'm not saying that one is better or the other, I'm not saying that whatsoever, but all the kids that this happens to that they don't talk about, that don't have enough evidence to go forward, that don't say anything because they're terrified or they're being threatened. The amount of stories that we read, how are we able to build a world that it's safer for kids to come out and share these things? I know it's disgusting. We don't want to think it's happening as much as it is, but it fucking is. And their childhoods are being stolen. And I just feel like when we have all this progression, why are we not really, maybe we are, because I do feel like we are to some degree, but I feel like this progression could be so much faster. I don't know the answers. I'm just saying, you know what I'm trying to say? Nights are still difficult. She sleeps restlessly, always on guard as if something bad might happen. She said her child's confidence has been impacted by the assault, and while she once made friends easily, she is now much more reserved and finds it hard to trust others. Her resilience and courage have been nothing short of incredible, she added. Turning to Candale Mosquera, the mother said he did not break her. Franklin, I pray that you find forgiveness and peace in yourself, and that our family finds comfort knowing that you will face consequences for your actions, and hopefully no child will have to go through what my child has to go through at your hands. Mascara is permanent resident in Canada, and he'll likely face deportation after completing his sentence. A person living in Canada who's not a citizen can be deported on grounds of serious criminality if they're sentenced to more than 6 years of jail. Lowe told the court that Candelo Mosquera left Colombia when he was 28 years old with his daughter and the mother of his child to start a better life in Canada and escape violence. She noted that Candelo Mosquera had another daughter 2 years ago. During the court proceeding, a translator translated the proceedings to Spanish for Candelo Mosquera. He had worked as a painter and in the construction industry with a temp agency before he was charged, and he had been on social assistance since the charges were laid. He was released on bail shortly after his arrest in 2022 and remained out of custody until his conviction this past June. Repeat offenders. Why are we always doing this? While the revocation of bail after conviction but prior to sentencing is a rare occurrence in BC court, Short told the court at the time that it's more common in Alberta. Short argued that given Candelo Mosquera is not a Canadian citizen, he could be considered a flight risk after he was convicted and he no longer benefited from the presumption of innocence. Justin Houston said he'd never dealt with such a request in his dozen of years on bench, but ultimately revoked his bail. I mean, I get it because people flee all the time, right? And then once you're gone, then what happens? So gross and fucking disgusting. Like, I don't know what needs to happen, but something needs to happen. Like, I don't know, is it more jail time? Should he be serving jail time here? Because if maybe he just gets sent home and he's deported, is he going to be punished there? Is he just going to go do that thing here? There? Was he doing that before he left? What about his child? Like, I just feel so bad for everybody impacted about this situation. And I just don't know how we prevent it, but is like therapy better? I don't know. I don't know, you guys. But let's go to the third one. Again, an absolute tragedy for the reason why this needed to be brought up, but we're going to call this a win in the memory of Bailey McCourt. So, Bailey's Law passes second reading in the House of Commons with standing ovation. This comes from December 3rd. It was a unanimous decision in the House of Commons. Members of Parliament gave a standing ovation following Bailey's Law passing second reading on December 3rd. Kamloops MP Frank Caputo introduced Bailey's Law, Bill C-225, the House of Commons, as a private bill on September 18th. In the bill, all domestic violence killings would be treated as first-degree murder. The law is named after Bailey McCourt, a Kelowna woman who was killed by her estranged husband, James Plover, after a violent daytime attack on July 4th. Plover initially faced charges of second-degree murder, but the charges were upgraded to first-degree murder on November 25th. I want to thank Bailey's family for their tireless advocacy pushing these major changes that are possible and necessary. I also want to thank Carrie, who suffered in the attack that took Bailey's life, said Caputo in a press release. Bill C-225 marks an important step toward reforming our criminal justice system. The bill is a historic change that will help protect victims of intimate partner violence, which is just absolutely needs to be done. It's so sad that it feels like, again, we progress, but we're doing things now, right? And I don't know that necessarily laws can always protect, but that's the best that you can do, right? That there's crazy people in the fucking world and you got to do our best. And it's just great to see people coming together and unanimously agreeing that this needs to be better. Kelowna MP Stephen Fuhr praised his fellow members of parliament for the united front. Every Canadian deserves to live free from fear and violence. Yesterday's unanimous vote to advance Bill C-225 to committee is a reminder that all parties can work together towards an objective. Fuhr said in an emailed statement to Black Press. Our government is collaborating on this private member's bill and our upcoming legislation to femicide a first-degree murder offense, which will be introduced before the holidays. It is essential that the spirit of cooperation continues as the bill moves forward, and we advance other comprehensive reforms our government will keep taking strong action to protect women and families across Canada. So 100%, thank you guys so much for doing that. Thank you for Bailey's family. I mean, again, we've talked about it a little bit on the show, what happened to her, and I will follow up with that next episode and what's going on over there in that case, in that situation. But it's just really beautiful to see that when people can come together on a situation that absolutely, without a doubt, like, again, you always want to say that laws and all these things will stop individuals, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but that's the least that we can do, I think, is absolutely first degree murder, because how is it not? How, this person, this isn't just a by accident situation, you know what I mean? Like, then maybe that's a manslaughter, but when it's something like that, especially for a repeat offender, there's no questions in my mind. So thank you 100%, Frank Caputo, and he's obviously right close. Thank you, Stephen, who is obviously the MP in the area here for Kelowna, MP for Kelowna, I believe. Yes. And I just really appreciate everyone coming together. And I wanted to end that on a positive note, because honestly, it just gets exhausting, you guys. And I've come to talk about this on the Instagram story. It's hard to know to keep talking about Canada, because I've been doing this for so long, and I would talk a lot about politics, and that got kind of exhausting and seemed repetitive. And then a lot of it then was after bills and laws and stuff like that. And again, that just seemed daunting and depressing. So I'm like, okay, let's go to the news. And there never seems to be good things. It just seems to be criminals and pedophiles. And it is super exhausting. So through the holiday season, I'll decide if I'll keep going with Keeping Up with Canada. If you guys do like these segments, please let me know in the comment sections, or by watching them, or just messaging me and let me know. If not, we'll see what the new year brings. But don't forget, on Wednesdays we do Internet Insanity, which are the crazy shit I read on the internet, you guys. I'm not necessarily saying good or bad or the other. Not. Anyways, I'll talk about it on Wednesday. But we have that on Wednesday, and then the podcast is every Friday. So don't forget to tune into Apple, Spotify, and Rumble for that. And then you've got Keeping Up with Canada Monday and Internet Insanity specifically here on YouTube. You can find me on TikTok or Instagram at the Be Real Babe or the Be Real Babe podcast. Thank you guys for listening again, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.